spins a brand new theme. Mrs. Right, that's right.
Hello and welcome back. This is another episode of Mrs. Right with me, Bronte Bennett, author of The Squire and podcast host for Mrs. Right. I am delighted today to be welcoming Vanessa Woolley, author of Secrets at Sunset. First, hi Vanessa, lovely to have you with us on the Mrs. Right podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Great to have you. Tell us your once upon a time, please.
Well, once upon a time, I decided that I was going to write my own stories based upon Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little House on the Prairie stories. So I lived at the time in New Zealand, in the South Island of New Zealand. So I was probably about 8 or 9, and I created this whole world of based on little dolls I had of pioneering girls. And I always kind of felt that I wanted to go on to write those kind of stories. And they always had dogs in them, cats, horses. I was very lucky. I lived on a small holding, as my parents used to call it, which I had a pony, and I had chickens and bantams and ducks and all those sorts of things. But my world, so I started to create those worlds in my head. And I think kind of that was probably an early sign that I might want to write stories. And I certainly went on into my teens to do well on the creative writing side of learning English at school. But ultimately, those stories are the ones that I remember kind of spurred me into action. That and reading the books of The Little House on the Prairie, and also the wonderful television show. I don't know, you might be younger than me, but I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, no, I remember it really well, and I loved them. Yeah, beautiful stories.
Yes.
Gosh, you've just taken me back in time to a time when I don't know how old I was. Maybe I was 10 or 11, maybe not, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, my best friend Nicola Telford and I used to make stories up using tiny cotton reels. I don't know if you've ever seen those miniature cotton reels.
Yes.
She had one of those sewing boxes that opened up, and we would make whole worlds out of cotton reels, and everybody would have a story in there. It's amazing how your child's imagination can conjure so much. And I totally relate to that whole kind of making everything a story. I guess I'm curious about the journey from that point. So did you take a career path that was different from writing? Did you use your creativity in your career path, or have you just gone straight into authoring?
I think I always wanted to write. So I won quite a lot of awards at school for my creative writing side of my English. So whether it was a poem, short story, I also I used to go to a Stedfords with my short stories and poems and win awards for that. I didn't really start writing full-on books, really, until my 40s. But the novels, I think I was slowly edging my way towards finding the right story. That, and the one I've just came out last year, Secrets of Sunset, was the one that I was confident enough to submit to go out into the world with.
So you published Secrets at Sunset through an agent, through a publisher, or what was your journey?
So with Secrets at Sunset, I wrote the first version of it in 2019 after I'd been to Africa on a trip, and I'd become involved with helping rhinos charities as well. And I was just very conscious of the fact that the first time I was in Southern Africa for many years, I hadn't seen a single rhino. So that's how I so I was very conscious of the work that's being done, particularly with when a rhino is poached and she has got a calf. The vulnerability of that calf, they won't last very long in the wild. So I kind of set it around that, and then set it in the Kruger National Park, because I sort of was able to go back and stay at a place which is where my fictitious Game Reserve is based on. So, but I think, so that book began then, and then I took it through the Romantic Novelists Association, which I joined. I was a member of their New Writers Scheme, which is this amazing mentorship that you can do as an unpublished. Yes, so it's the UK Romantic Novelists Association, which has been going since about 1960, quite a long time.
I'm going to join.
There are a lot of romance authors who are self-published who I have met through the RNA, and it's a great scheme for traditional and hybrid and self-published.
Well, how exciting. How have I not heard of this? This is one of the things I love about this podcast. Literally every author I speak to gives me a nugget. I mean, I am getting so much mentorship now from all of you wonderful people.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And they have a conference once a year, and it's great fun.
Yeah, sounds great fab. Yeah. All right, well, thank you. That's brilliant. So you wrote Secrets at Sunset. You finished Secrets at Sunset.
Yeah.
How did you get it into the world? What was the next step?
So once I'd rewritten it, because originally I realised that it was too long, too big, and I had a third point of view that wasn't working. So I think probably by end of 22, I had got it in the manuscript into a shape I wanted to. And then I started submitting to agents that I thought would be a good match for. I sort of kept this massive spreadsheet. And also some publishing companies that have open submissions. So a lot of the digital first ones do, like HQ Stories. I don't know, it's called One More Chapter. Yeah, One More Chapter, which I think is part of HarperCollins, the big HarperCollins publishing. And also Storm Publishing.
Yeah.
They're new kids on the block, but they've been very successful. And also,
and they'll take direct submissions. Those two, will they?
So you go onto their website. They have a portal, and you submit the whole manuscript when you're absolutely certain this is what you want them to, and then they reply really quickly. I think they're digital first or digital only. I'm not sure, ebook only. And then they like books in a series as well, I think, if you're writing a series.
Oh, well, that's handy because I am. Oh my God, I'm so excited. This is such a great conversation. I'm very much excited by all the possibilities.
And the other one is Bookature as well. That's another
Bookature.
And the other one is called Boldwood, but I think their submissions have been shut for a while. But the other two tend to be open the whole time.
So did you find an agent stroke publisher?
No, I didn't find an agent. I had a couple of full requests. I'm not going to lie. When you get full requests, it's the most exciting thing that can ever happen to an author or a want-to-be author. But then sometimes you don't hear back from the full request. So it's like, you
don't hear anything at all? No feedback, nothing?
Sometimes you don't. I mean, I think when they ask for the full, they should give you a nice refusal.
Yeah.
But I've had a couple of those experiences, but I had a couple of really nice rejections after that. So I think, and another thing also through the RNA, at their conferences, you can do one-to-ones as part of the conference. So you send a pitch in, you get allocated an agent or a publisher, and then you sit across the table from them for 10 minutes and pitch your book. And sometimes they ask to see it and sometimes they don't. So it's, I applied for a lot of agents. I felt like I, made it a good shot. And then I came across Kingsley Publishers, and they are not a UK one, but they're very, very small independent publishers. So they are traditional. They publish in ebook and paperback versions. But they're not based here. They're based in South Africa, but they don't publish. They don't publish in South Africa. So they publish in the, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, those kind of places, in English. But you obviously you have your secondary rights for translation if not. And so I sent it to them onto their online portal, and then they came back and said that they liked, they were interested in publishing it. So that's kind of where I started. And then because I didn't have an agent, I had to then look at the contract with absolutely no knowledge whatsoever.
Yeah.
So the Society of Authors is a really great tool for looking at contracts for authors that have not got a representation. You have to be a member, but once you're a member, and actually it's good being a member because there's lots of other benefits you can get from that. And they look at the contract and they'll give you feedback because they've got volunteer lawyers who are also writers who are members of the Society of Authors.
Gosh.
So it's quite useful. Also, Jericho Writers is another
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan
really
of
good
Jericho.
platform.
Such a great, so much support from there.
They're great, and you can actually show them contracts as well, which I didn't have to do, but that's I've got a couple of friends who are indie published or self-published, and they have used Jericho for that, and for manuscript editing and all that kind of thing.
Well, I found my editor and my my developmental editor and my book cover designer. I want to say through Reedsy, but I found Reedsy through Jericho, and a traditionally published author friend suggested both of those as great support to me. Yeah. She said, whether you're going for independent publishing or not, they do everything. And that's how I found Query Tracker.
Yes.
So, excuse me. So for those of you who are listening, who are perhaps just at the beginning of this writing journey, there is so much stuff out there that will support you. I think I started with YouTube videos. They were a mixed bag of helpfulness, and then I found Jericho and Reedsy, and Query Tracker blew my mind. But I hadn't heard of the Society of Authors or the UK Romantic Novelists Association. And then you've talked about the Digital First One More Chapter, Storm Publishing, Boldwood, Bookature, and your publisher, ultimately, Kingsley Publishers, whilst not in the UK, still, maybe people have never thought of, I'd certainly never thought about looking outside the UK for a publishing house. But if they're publishing in the US and the UK, then that's another thing for everyone to think about.
And your book, they have distributors that they have the standard they use Gardner's, which is the huge book distributor in the UK that distributes books to bookshops and things like that. And obviously they publish onto the Amazon platform as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so what's one lesson about writing that you learnt the hard way?
I think in terms of actually writing, and feel like I've just been through it again with the manuscript I've just written, was to actually not try and you need to give yourself time to dream and to let your story ideas filter into the spaces in your brain. So I think for me, I thought, I've got one book out now and I've really got to get another book out to sell the first book so that people don't forget who I am. And I sort of had started to write my next story, which has nothing to do with the first story, but I'd started to write it in the autumn, but I hadn't quite connected with the characters and I hadn't let go of the other characters. So it was just a nightmare. But in end of January, February, I just began to dream about my characters more and not allow speed to get in my way, and just gradually get into the story. But I think you've just got, have a plan. Definitely plan your story, because otherwise you will get stuck. You've got to know what happens at the end, and you've got to in order to start. I think that's really important. And so for me, I would say if you're just starting to write your first story, make sure that you do know what's going to happen along the way. What drives the characters? Which do you want to write in first person? Do you want to write in third person? How are you going to do it? And also, if research is involved, do some research at the beginning, but don't kind of do it in the middle of writing because it distracts you. You go down these rabbit holes you've got to you can always leave spaces in your first draft that says, question mark, because you don't know exactly the facts. But,
it's really interesting to hear you say that, because I'm always interested in the are you a plotter or a pantser conversation. It's just fascinating to hear about the way different writers approach their writing. And as I've had quite a few days of talking to different authors, everybody's journey is so unique. Everybody's approach is very different. So I think if I was a new writer listening to this, what I'd probably take away from this is you've got to find your own groove and whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Have there been any moments that have really tested you or perhaps called into question whether this is something you want to do on an ongoing basis?
Yes, there has been many moments. I think, bizarrely, many moments since I've been published.
Wow.
So like the whole imposter syndrome thing does come along quite a lot. I think there's all that excitement when you first get a book out and people are reading it and reviewing it and those kind of things. And then it kind of peters out and then you have to keep working at it. But I think for me, there have been times when I've just not being able to write for 3 or 4 days in a row in this recent project, or even longer, and just thought, oh, maybe this isn't the right story. But actually, I've been wanting to write the story for longer than I can, like way before I started writing the African book. So, and then I just got my groove. But I think it's just believing in yourself. I mean, if you've written a book, that's more than a lot of people have done.
That's a good point, and definitely one worth me just putting a pin in for a second, because just finishing a book is a massive undertaking, and anybody who's managed to do that deserves to give themselves a pat on the back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But also, another piece of advice I've been given, and I really am holding on very tight to it, is your first draft is not your book. It is only your first draft. So I know that one of my problems in the past when I was trying to write books is that I'd keep revisiting chapter 1 until I'd just spent so much time revisiting what I'd written and editing it as I went that I just lost my groove for actually writing it. So the best piece of advice I've ever been given is just write the damn book. It's only your first draft.
Yeah, it's only, and it's your draft. The draft zero is for no one else except you. And you're right. I have a tendency to do that. I have a tendency to go back to the beginning, even though, as I found out, I started in the wrong place, and spent ages just on details, like what did the front path look like in her house?
I know.
It had herringbone paving.
It's not the time for that.
It's not.
Come back to that later. We know this now.
Yeah. I know. So I think it is. I think it's just it's that thought. Oh, I've written 20,000 words. Let me read them to myself instead of just carrying on the story.
Yeah. Yeah,
so I think that's where it comes in, that you're either a pantser, a planner, or you can be a quilter. So if you're a quilter, that's quite good.
I like this. Tell me about a quilter.
I think I call it a quilter, but I'm sure it's probably called that, in the writing field. But it's kind of like where you might not write in order. So you might have a plan, but then you might think, oh, I really want to write that whole big scene where this happens. So you just
in your head right now.
Yeah. So you wake up in the morning and think, oh, I'm going to write that. And then you have to then, like with pieces of quilt, you then have to stitch all the different things together. So that's kind of how I
love that metaphor so much. And I want to say thank you to you, because I've always thought, I know what needs. I have had those exact moments. I've written that paragraph or chapter or whatever, and then I've thought, I don't know where this is going yet. But I'm just going to stick it in my notes, and I never realised that I was quilting, and now I do.
Quilting, exactly.
Thanks. That feels better. Instead of, in my head, I was like, oh, you're such a butterfly. You can't just attach yourself to one thing and stick with it until it's finished. You've got to flit from thing to thing. But it's a normal thing. So I don't need to give myself a hard time about that anymore. So you have had your moments of imposter syndrome, but you've kept on going. What is it, do you think, that keeps you going? What's the motivation?
I think the motivation is to remember, you just have to remind yourself of what you've achieved. So like any writer, I've had one book published after a long slog, but I've got many others that I wrote many years ago. I like to say they're in my drawer, but they're actually on my old laptop, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think you've just got to keep thinking, no, come on, I've written thousands and thousands of words of fiction, of stories. They're not perfect because they're all first drafts, and I've got one book published. People read it and people liked it. You've just got to keep going and also just think of it as something that's your thing, your special thing. Don't always think of it as, because you're not going to make money, let's face it.
We have
got to be honest about that.
This is a theme on every single conversation I have. If you're doing it for money, don't bother, because you're not, even proper famous big writing people aren't making as much money as a 21-year-old influencer.
No, exactly.
So,
So
if
you
this
may
is
as
your
well
career
just,
of choice, you might be in the wrong one.
yes, most writers' work have paid work, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Or day jobs, and I
Yeah.
take my hat off to the people that write as many. There are authors that bring out 3 books a year, particularly historical fiction
do
authors,
that.
and they work. A lot of them work, and have children. And it's hard work, and I take my hat off to them. But ultimately, you have to do it because it's who you are, it's inside you, and that's never going to change. And if you don't write, it's like you're not allowing yourself to eat almost. So you've got to feed your creative soul, and
that's beautifully put.
Have faith in it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Some days it just doesn't work, and you just have to maybe do something else that day.
Yeah,
just think,
that's good advice.
Watch Netflix or something.
So what I'm taking away from this is a couple of things. First of all, don't try and force your creativity into a calendar like you might put a meeting in, because it doesn't work like that. And there might be times when you need to step back, step away, and allow the characters to come back to you in your dreams, as you put it so beautifully.
Yeah.
And then once you've got, I guess it's the muse, isn't it? Once you've got your inspiration and your muse, then you can't not write. So that's what I find, is that when the story takes me, I can't not write. And I have to put it down on the page. But when I wrote the first one, I went for 6 months. I didn't pick it up once. Nothing.
Okay.
I had nothing for 6 whole months. I was so busy with my normal life. There was no room for anything else. And then one day I suddenly went, oh, I know what's going to happen. And I was off. And, and I raced.
That's all it takes, isn't it? Is that little trigger or something. And I had the same problem with the second book. I felt so stressed in the autumn, thinking I've got to get this done. At the same time as still really hands-on marketing of the other book that had come out. And then all of a sudden in January, I think it was early February, I had a dream. It sounds like I'm about to break into song.
I totally get it. I'm relating so hard right now.
I wake up in the middle of the night and I thought to myself, so that's what it is. Because I needed a really big plot, not twist, but I needed something to happen that would bring together the why two of the characters are the way they are. Yeah. And so I had to get up in the night and tiptoe down the corridor to my study and scribble it on a piece of paper and then tiptoe back into bed. And then my husband said, what's wrong? Is it the dog? Because sometimes our dog cries if it's windy. He doesn't like the wind. And I said, I've just come up with a really, really good solution to a character problem. And he went, you woke me up for that. I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's important.
And then it was like, after that, it was boom, 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 writing every day solidly until 2 weeks ago.
That's such a wonderful
feeling. It just took one thing. And but it became a bit obsessive because friends would say, can you do this or can you do that? Do you want to meet for no. Why not? I need to write today.
Can't do anything. Oh my God. I do feel sometimes like a bit of a bore because literally every time I did lunch or dinner or anything with friends, it's all I want to talk about is my book, my story, my characters. Oh, you won't believe what Marcus is up to now. Yeah, and they're like, yes, let's get on with the book, and just finish it.
Yeah, we'll read it when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to hear about it every single time we meet. But, it's our passion.
Yes.
So, let's say we just met. We're at dinner together.
Yeah.
And I am interested in the fact that you're a writer and I do want to know about your book.
Okay.
In that kind of very casual friends having dinner way, how would you describe your book to me if I said, oh, what's it about?
For me, it's about someone is searching for answers about her family. And she's in South Africa for that reason as well. And what she discovers is not what she was expecting, ultimately. So it's looking at grief. There's lots of mirroring themes, I think, between the rhino calf being orphaned, what's happened to the woman before she goes to South Africa. And in the middle of that, you've got a very sort of scarred ex-British soldier working as a ranger. With lots of problems of his own. So I think I wanted to sort of talk about rhino conservation, and it's very much about that, about raising awareness of the poaching alongside what's being done to help. So there's a lot of stuff that's done in South Africa and other African countries with rhino conservation. But also it's also about individuals and what leads them to do what they do and how they end up there. So that was kind of pulling it all together. And then, of course, in the middle of that, there's a love story.
Yeah. It sounds absolutely brilliant. It's definitely on my TBR list with, my ever increasing pile. Just absolutely brilliant that I'm discovering all this fabulous work. Yeah. And actually, I was talking to an author yesterday who was saying that she wants to highlight real issues, but using fiction as the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And because sometimes people find it easier to manage than the facts. Yeah. In their stark reality. Yeah. And I think there's something about, and that's what storytelling does. Yes. It's powerful for that reason. You can highlight real issues, but using fiction as a vehicle is really clever.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's what I wanted to do. And I think for me, it was just, raising that awareness, but also trying to mirror it to what the characters are going through.
Yeah, so that's clever.
I think you have to sort of think, you can't just put people in and then have something. But I think ultimately, I've read a lot of books about, some of
most
them
writers are great readers.
Yeah, exactly. And historical, but I've read a lot of books that have real life issues, even, a lot of historical fiction, because, people, particularly in more modern history in the Second World War, I love books about what women go through, what women went through while the men were off fighting. I love all those kind of stories.
I love those books.
It really focuses
on... I love those stories.
The people left behind. And, that I love all those kind of things. And and also just about women generally in the past and how they've had to stand up to the situations they've been in. I love all those kind of things.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is good. It's good to, I mean, as you say, women, writers have to be readers, and sometimes, it's at war with one another, because sometimes you just want to read and you don't want to have to write, but you have to do both at some point.
And you've also got to run your house and your family and have a job and, take the dog for a walk and do your work emails.
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe I should have been a librarian. If it paid well, I probably would have been. I'd have loved to be a librarian, but I just don't think it pays enough.
I know. It would be a great job. I'm not going to lie. It'd be
Wouldn't it, though? Wouldn't it be fantastic? Secrets at Sunset. It sounds brilliant.
I'll show you the cover. It might be. There's the cover. It might be.
Okay, so beautiful. So for those of you who are just listening, this is a beautiful looking book, Secrets at Sunset, really nicely designed cover.
Yeah.
And
little rhino.
So it's little rhino, man and woman. Yeah, beautiful. Secrets at Sunset, Vanessa Woolley. Look it up. If you enjoy this sort of fiction that gives you romance, but also something important to learn and to talk about. But you have also mentioned that you've got a work in progress. So tell me a little bit about your work in progress.
Yeah, so this one is based very loosely on a true story, but I've taken something that really did happen, involving a mixed cassette tape, and being found washed up on a beach. And I've turned it into my own message in a bottle type of story. And I've set it in Cornwall. So it's called All at Sea, which is the working title. Bear in mind that this wasn't called that but I had to change
names, don't they?
Yeah, but it made sense because I could see why they did it. I think this one, All at Sea I'm pretty certain that that's going to stay as it is. So it's really about, there's three characters in this. There's a mother and daughter. And the mother she's in her 50s, she's divorced, she's just sold her business, her consultancy business, and is a bit of a loose end. And she's got a 22-year-old daughter who's dropped out of university just before her finals and has gone traveling. So that's where you start of the book. And then there's a third character who wasn't supposed to be in it, but back in January, he tapped me on the shoulder and said, I need to be in this book. And he's a sort of late 50s, investment banker who's dropped out and gone to run a cafe in Cornwall following a heart problems. So he's changed his lifestyle, and he's always been into surfing, gone to Cornwall, bought a cafe, and he lives down there, and he's called Max, and he's completely, utterly my favourite character. I'm really in love with him. So hopefully my husband's not listening, but anyway.
I mean, of course we're always in love with our leading male man,
yes, right? I mean, I loved Ryan, who was in this book. I mean, he's much younger than me, but I loved him anyway.
But
and
the young people call them their book boyfriends.
Yes, exactly. So ultimately, it's about three people who are sort of all at sea for different reasons. So the 22-year-old particular, and I really wanted to tackle young adult mental health a little bit in this book, and that's kind of what I'm doing. It's about. And I think that stems from having a daughter who finished university in 2020 during lockdown, did all her exams online. She struggled to get jobs. She did get a job, but it took a year. But it was about what she went through. She became very anxious. And I do actually think, and I'm not blaming it on COVID, but I think there are times when things like that do force young people to become more insular and to not believe in themselves. And she's worked her way through it. She's been amazing, absolutely amazing. Hats off to her. So I wanted to write a story about that, and also about what do you do if you're a very efficient woman who's run your own business, been through a divorce, but you need to finish what you're doing. And what do you do when you're in your 50s? And she's not started dating again. So there's that sort of mother and daughter thing going on where they rescue each other. But it's caused by an accident that happens at the start of the book. And then it all ends, most of it's in Cornwall, and it's all revolved around a mixed cassette tape that's found by the daughter on the beach. So, and there's a big mystery behind it. So it's a sort of mystery, slight romantic comedy, slight uplifting fiction.
So if we think about your experiences thus far as an author, what wisdom do you have for writers wherever they are in their writing career?
I think wherever you are in your writing career, and I'm sure lots of other authors would agree with me, is to think about self-care a little bit, because I felt like I got so stressed at one point last year in the autumn, trying to start a new project, trying to market this one, trying to do everything at once, which is my nature anyway. I'm a list person, do this, do that, do that. I think it did affect my health a little bit. So I have psoriasis. So when my psoriasis flares up, and it can do that, it's usually from stress. And I'd had 2 years in a row of writing the first book, getting a publisher, going through all of that, and 2 sons getting married 8 months apart. It was a tad stressy. I didn't. So I realized that I needed to stop beating myself up about the writing, and just accept that you can't control writing. You have to spend a lot of time waiting. So you've written something, you're proud of it, you've edited it, you've sent it off to agents, you wait, and then you wait some more, and then it all happens, and then you still got to wait, and then you wait. And it doesn't work like getting children to school or going to work, where you know that you've got to be in the car by this time to drop them to get to work. It's all about waiting, but it also can make you really stressed. And I feel like self-care is really important. So self-care might involve, I'm not going to write for 4 days. I'm just going to do other things, and I'm going to read some nice books and watch some nice television shows, or do other things to take your mind off it, because it can be really stressful. But most of the time it's great fun, but it can be really stressful.
That is both very helpful and very timely. So as you were talking, I was thinking, I am currently managing a full-time job and my Mrs. Wright podcast.
Yes.
Working my way through my to-read list, writing my own book. And there's a war in the Middle East, which is putting some of our work happens overseas, and that's all been stymied. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I feel it in my joints. So when I'm stressed, my joints become really inflamed. And this morning I was hobbling around the fields with the dog thinking, you need to, it's time for you to take some time to look after yourself. Yeah. Otherwise you're not going to be able to write anything. So that's such good advice and really timely for me. And I bet there'll be other people listening to this right now going, yeah, good point, Vanessa. Thanks. I'm going to take a couple of days off.
Yeah, I think you do, because everyone knows where their weak spot is. So some people it's their gut, me, it's my skin, but a little bit of my gut. And I think as soon as you know those things are happening, you've got to let go of something. And you can't always let go of your job because, let's face it, that's your day.
Because the cost of heating oil has just gone up. So we've got to work even harder.
Exactly. So what you have to do then is just think, well, I'll just take a few days off from the other things that for me, I was even getting stressed thinking, oh, I've booked in a yoga class for this evening, but when am I going to, and that was stupid. Yoga's supposed to be relaxing. You're supposed to go there to, so I always made myself go to an evening yoga because particularly if I've been on the computer all day, but when you start thinking, I can't do all these things, it's stupid. You just have to give yourself time. And actually, an hour of yoga is actually quite good for your mental health as well as physical.
So true.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, sometimes I think the universe just dishes me up exactly the right person to talk to at exactly the right moment. And that's what this conversation with you feels like. You've given me so much helpful, real, genuine thought, prompts to things to think about, but also a permission,
yes,
just to take a chill pill now and again and let things come when they're ready to come. Yeah, you've been my this morning gift. I've got one final sensible question to ask you, and then I'm gonna have a little 10 in 10 game with you where I'm going to give you 10 this or that's for you to choose from to take us to the close of our conversation. But my final sensible question is this. What does success as a writer mean to you now, and has it changed?
I think success to me means having a book published that people want to read, that people respond to. So there are a lot of really lovely book reviewers out there that read books and are very honest but also considerate. And I think for me, I want it to whatever it is I'm writing, whether it's the one I've just written or the one I've hoping to publish next, then it's about people getting pleasure and enjoyment and saying, oh, I really enjoyed that, and oh, I like the twist at the end, or I love this character. Anything. It's not about the money. I know that's a song, but but it is about recognition, and self-published, traditionally published. It's about people picking your book up in a bookshop or a library and saying, oh, I love this book. I'd like to read this, give it a go. I think that's really important for me. And to have finally achieved it at 60, I suppose I was 60 when it came out, is great. But it just goes to show you can do so many things in your life. And if writing is what you really want to do, then just keep trying at it. And so for me, that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Loved talking to you. So I'm going to now close with my favourite game, which is called 10 in 10. And I'm going to ask you 10 things, and I'm going to ask you to choose this or that. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. So thinking of yourself as a reader.
Yep.
It's a this or that answer.
Okay.
Number 1, sweet or spicy?
Sweet.
Sweet. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Cliffhanger or happy ending?
Cliffhanger.
Short or long chapters?
Short.
Ebook or physical book?
Physical.
Series or standalone?
Standalone.
Dog-eared or pristine?
Dog-eared.
Bedtime or anytime?
Ooh, anytime.
One at a time or multiple choice?
Multiple choice.
And the last question, bookmark or fold the corner?
Fold the corner.
I am staggered at how many people are folding corners. I was really, if I was a betting woman, I'd have said most people would go bookmark, but I've been wrong so far.
I even had bookmarks made for my book, but they're still in my drawer. They're not nowhere near my bedside table, so.
I have so many bookmarks, I don't know what to do with them, but I usually end up putting something really random, like a nail file.
Yes, especially if it's by the bed. My husband just leaves his paperback on the floor beside his bed, like that. And in the morning, it's kind of been twisted because he's probably stood on it during the night. I always say to him, you could at least put it down on your bedside table, but it just falls on the floor, I think. Anyway. But the multiple choice was interesting because I do like audiobooks as well sometimes.
Yeah, so do I. I've always got physical book. Often I've got a non-fiction and a fiction physical book, and I've always got an audiobook on the go, and it's usually Jilly Cooper.
Yeah. Be great narrators for that, I suspect.
So good. And they're like 36 hours long, these books. So they keep you going through a lot of ironing and a lot of dog walks.
For me, it's ironing, dog walking and driving if I'm doing a lot of
There you go. That's
driving.
exactly the same for me. Literally. You and I. And we both got the pink memo. I mean,
exactly.
It was meant to be.
Well, I've really enjoyed our chat. It's been absolutely amazing. Great.
I've loved it too. And we look forward to the next books. Thank you.
And good luck with your writing as well. I've got your book on my list. I do love the cover. The cover's great.
Well, let me know what you think of it when you get around to reading it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tap, 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 she's lining up a scene. Coffee cup, cat's tail, dancing in the steam. Every little click spins a brand new theme. Mrs. Right, that's right.